Your stomach has been lying to you, and I'm going to prove it right now. What if I told you that hunger isn't weakness? What if the emptiness you've been taught to fear your entire life is actually a doorway? A portal to abilities they systematically removed from human consciousness because people who can access them become impossible to control? There's a reason every prophet, every mystic, every person who ever claimed to see beyond the veil did one thing first. They stopped eating. And there's a reason they don't want you knowing what happens when you do. Before you think this is about weight loss or some diet trend, stop. This isn't about that. This is about what your body becomes when you remove food. Not what it loses, what it gains. And if this sounds impossible, if you're already dismissing it, perfect. That's exactly the programming we're about to dismantle. Because in the next few minutes, you're going to understand why fasting was systematically removed from modern life. Why they replaced it with constant eating, snacking, grazing 6 times a day. And why the moment you stop feeding your body, abilities you didn't know you had start activating. Hit that subscribe button right now because what I'm about to show you will change how you see your body forever. And they really don't want this information spreading. So let's start with what they're not telling you. You've been taught that food equals energy, right? Eat to fuel your body. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Never skip meals or your metabolism will crash. You need constant glucose for your brain to function, all of it. Every single piece of it, programming. Because here's what actually happens. Your body has 2 fuel systems, and you've only been using one your entire life. System 1, glucose, sugar, carbs, the fuel you get from food. It's fast, it's easy, it's also completely limited. You eat, you get a spike, you crash, you need more. It's a dependence loop. And you've been living in it since birth. But System 2? System 2 is ketones, fat burning. And this is where it gets wild, because ketones aren't just fuel. They're not just energy. They're signaling molecules. They activate genes. They cross the blood-brain barrier. They change brain chemistry. They trigger states of consciousness that glucose physically cannot access. You've been running on the inferior fuel system your whole life. And they knew this. Ancient civilizations knew this. Every major religion built fasting into their practice, not as punishment, as technology, as a tool to access altered states, heightened perception, direct spiritual experience. Moses fasted 40 days before receiving the 10 Commandments. Jesus fasted 40 days in the desert before beginning his ministry. Buddha fasted under the Bodhi tree before enlightenment. Muhammad fasted regularly and mandated it for all followers during Ramadan. This isn't coincidence. This is a pattern. And the pattern is clear. You fast, something opens. But then something changed. Somewhere along the way, fasting went from sacred practice to dangerous fringe behavior. They medicalized it. They called it disordered eating. They told you it would damage your metabolism, crash your hormones, destroy your health. And you believed them because they said it with authority while wearing white coats. But here's what they didn't tell you. Every study showing fasting is dangerous has one thing in common. They're studying people who are nutrient deficient, metabolically broken, and insulin resistant from decades of the standard American diet. They're not studying healthy humans practicing ancestral eating patterns. They're studying sick people, and then using that data to tell you fasting itself is the problem. Let me show you what actually happens when you fast. And I mean really fast. Not intermittent fasting, not skipping breakfast. I'm talking about extended fasting. 72 hours, 5 days, 7 days. The protocols they've labeled extreme, dangerous, banned. Hour 12. Glycogen depletion begins. Your body is burning through stored glucose. Nothing special yet. This is just the transition phase. But your insulin levels are dropping. And when insulin drops, everything changes. Hour 16 to 24. Autophagy activates. This is your body's self-cleaning system. It starts breaking down damaged cells, recycled proteins, cellular debris. It's literally eating itself to become stronger. Cancer cells? Targeted. Damaged mitochondria? Recycled. Misfolded proteins? Destroyed. Your body becomes a self-optimizing machine. Hour 48. Deep ketosis. Your liver is now producing significant ketones. Beta-hydroxybutyrate, acetoacetate, acetone. These molecules cross into your brain and everything shifts. Mental clarity explodes. Brain fog disappears. Focus becomes laser sharp. And this is just the beginning. Hour 72. This is where it gets supernatural. BDNF spikes. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor. The molecule that grows new brain cells, forms new neural connections, repairs damaged neurons. Your brain is literally upgrading itself. Neuroplasticity goes into overdrive. You're not just thinking clearly, you're thinking differently. Day 5. HGH, human growth hormone, increases by 300 to 500%. Your body is flooding itself with the hormone that builds muscle, burns fat, and reverses aging. Not supplements, not injections. Your own body producing it naturally in response to the absence of food. Day 7. Stem cell production activates. Your body starts generating new immune cells. Old, damaged immune cells are cleared out and replaced. Your entire immune system is rebooting. This is cellular regeneration at a level modern medicine can't touch with drugs. But here's what they really don't want you knowing. Beyond all the physical benefits, beyond autophagy and ketones and stem cells, something else happens. Something they can't measure in a lab. Something they've dismissed as anecdotal, as placebo, as psychological. Your perception changes. Not slightly. Fundamentally. People who fast for extended periods report the same things over and over: heightened intuition, synchronicities, telepathic experiences, precognitive dreams, visions, direct knowing, contact with something beyond the physical. You think that's woo-woo? You think that's unscientific? Then explain this. The pineal gland, your third eye, the seat of consciousness in every ancient tradition, is inhibited by glucose and activated by ketones. When you fast, when you enter deep ketosis, your pineal gland increases production of DMT, dimethyltryptamine, the spirit molecule. This isn't mysticism. This is biochemistry. Your brain produces DMT naturally, and fasting increases it. The same molecule that shamans access through ayahuasca, the same compound that creates near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, entity contact. Your body makes it. And food suppresses it. Think about that. Every time you eat, you're closing the door. Every meal is pulling you back into dense, physical, material consciousness. And they taught you to eat 6 times a day. Breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, snack. Keep that glucose flowing. Keep that insulin spiked. Keep that pineal gland suppressed. Keep you locked in the physical. Keep you controllable. Because here's what they figured out. A population that fasts regularly is a population that can't be controlled. People who access altered states naturally don't need religion to tell them what's real. They don't need governments to tell them what's possible. They don't need pharmaceutical companies to tell them what's healthy. They know, because they've experienced it directly. This is why fasting disappeared from Western culture, not because it's dangerous, because it's powerful. And power in the hands of individuals is dangerous to systems that profit from dependence. Look at what happened. In the early 1900s, fasting was standard medical practice. Doctors prescribed it for everything: diabetes, obesity, epilepsy, mental illness, autoimmune disease. And it worked. Hospitals had fasting clinics. People fasted for weeks under medical supervision and came out transformed. Then big food happened. Then processed food, refined sugar, industrial agriculture. The creation of a food system designed to maximize profit, not health. And you can't sell food to people who aren't eating, so they needed you eating. Constantly. All day. Every day. They started with breakfast cereal specifically. Kellogg's Post, General Mills. They created the myth that breakfast is essential. They ran campaigns. They funded studies. They convinced doctors to tell patients that skipping breakfast is dangerous. Why? Because cereal is pure profit. Grain, sugar, box, pennies to produce, dollars to sell. Then they expanded it. Snacks. You need energy between meals. You need protein bars, granola bars, energy drinks. You need to eat every few hours, or your blood sugar will crash. They pathologized hunger. They made you afraid of the very state that activates your supernatural abilities. And it worked. The average American now eats 10 to 11 times per day. Not meals, eating occasions. Your body never gets a break. Your insulin never drops. Your autophagy never activates. Your ketones never spike. You're locked in glucose dependency, and you wonder why you're tired, foggy, inflamed, sick. But let's go deeper, because this isn't just about food companies. This is about consciousness control. And I know how that sounds. I know you're thinking conspiracy theory, but stay with me, because the evidence is overwhelming. Every government, every major institution, every power structure throughout history has one thing in common. They fear mystics. They fear people who claim direct access to divine consciousness. Because mystics don't need intermediaries. They don't need priests, politicians, experts telling them what's real. They've seen it themselves. And fasting is the most accessible mystical technology ever discovered. You don't need drugs. You don't need ceremonies. You don't need permission. You just stop eating. And after a few days, the veil thins. Reality becomes fluid. You start perceiving beyond the physical. This is why they shut down fasting clinics. This is why they medicalized eating disorders and lumped fasting into the same category. This is why every mainstream health authority tells you fasting is dangerous despite thousands of years of human evidence to the contrary. They needed you disconnected. They needed you locked in the material. They needed you dependent on their systems. Food, medicine, entertainment, all of it designed to keep your consciousness dense, slow, manageable. But now let's talk about what actually happens when you fast. Beyond the science, beyond the studies, let's talk about the experience, because I've done this. Extended fasts. 7 days, 10 days, 14 days, water only. And what happens is undeniable. Day 1 and 2 are physical. You're hungry. Your body is screaming for food because it's conditioned to constant feeding. This is withdrawal, glucose addiction breaking. It's uncomfortable, but it's not dangerous. It's reprogramming. Day 3 is the shift. Suddenly hunger disappears, not reduces. Disappears. You feel light, clear, energized. This is ketosis hitting hard. Your brain is running on premium fuel for the first time in your life, and you notice immediately. Day 4 and 5, time distorts. Hours pass like minutes. You're in flow states effortlessly. Creative ideas pour through you. Problems you've been stuck on for months suddenly have obvious solutions. It's like someone turned up the resolution on your consciousness. Day 6 and 7, this is where it gets mystical. Dreams become vivid, cinematic, prophetic. You wake up with knowledge you didn't have before. Synchronicities multiply. You think of someone they call. You need information, it appears. You're tapped into something beyond your individual mind. And the intuition. Oh man, the intuition. It's not subtle. It's loud. It's clear. It's unmistakable. You know things before they happen. You feel energy from people before they speak. You read situations instantly. This isn't psychic ability developing. This is psychic ability no longer being suppressed by constant eating. Your pineal gland is decalcified. Your neural pathways are optimized. Your perception is unfiltered. You're experiencing reality the way humans are designed to experience it. And it's nothing like what they told you was normal. Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds extreme. This sounds dangerous. And that's exactly what they programmed you to think. So let me address it directly. Is extended fasting safe? For most people, yes. Extraordinarily safe. Your body is designed for this. Humans evolved through feast and famine. We didn't have grocery stores. We didn't have 3 meals a day. We ate when food was available and went days, sometimes weeks, without eating. And during those times, we didn't get weaker. We got sharper, focused, alert, because hungry humans needed to hunt successfully or die. But here's the thing. Modern humans are so metabolically broken that transitioning into fasting can feel dangerous because your body has forgotten how. You've been running on glucose for so long that switching to fat burning creates symptoms. Headaches, fatigue, irritability, brain fog. They call it the keto flu. But it's not the flu. It's your body relearning how to function properly. So if you're going to fast, especially extended fasting, you need to prepare. You need to be metabolically flexible first. You need to practice intermittent fasting, build up to 24 hours, then 48, then 72. You ease into it. And if you have medical conditions, insulin resistance, diabetes, hormone issues, you work with someone who understands therapeutic fasting. Not some mainstream doctor who's going to panic and tell you you're starving yourself. Because that's the thing. They conflate fasting with starvation, but they're opposite processes. Starvation is forced, prolonged caloric restriction that leads to muscle loss, nutrient deficiency, metabolic damage. Fasting is voluntary, temporary abstinence from food that triggers healing, cellular repair, and metabolic optimization. When you fast, your body doesn't start eating muscle immediately. It goes after damaged cells first. It goes after fat stores. It preserves essential tissue. Because your body is intelligent, it's a self-regulating system that knows exactly what to do when you stop interfering with food. But let's talk about the real reason they don't want you fasting. The spiritual implications. Because this is where it gets controversial. And I don't care. Someone needs to say it. Every major spiritual breakthrough in human history involved fasting. The Buddha's enlightenment? Fasting. Jesus' temptation in the desert? 40-day fast. Moses receiving the law? 40-day fast. Muhammad's revelations? Fasting during Ramadan. Vision quests in Native American traditions? Fasting. Shamanic initiation? Fasting. This is not cultural accident. This is technology. Repeatable, reliable technology for accessing non-ordinary states of consciousness. And the people in power knew this. The Catholic Church knew this. That's why they built fasting into Lent. That's why monks fasted regularly. That's why every contemplative tradition includes dietary restriction. But then something changed. The church wanted control over mystical experience. They wanted you accessing God through them, not directly. So they diluted fasting. They made it symbolic. Give up chocolate for Lent. Eat fish on Fridays. Token gestures that maintain the appearance of spiritual practice without the actual transformative power. Meanwhile, they kept the real practices secret. Monks in monasteries still fast extensively, they just don't tell lay people. Because a population that can access divine consciousness directly doesn't need institutional religion. And institutional religion is a power structure. And power structures protect themselves. This is why modern Christianity barely mentions fasting. This is why it's become about belief, about doctrine, about rules, not about direct experience. Because direct experience is dangerous. People who encounter the divine firsthand stop obeying arbitrary authority. They follow their own inner knowing. And that's chaos for systems built on obedience. But here's what's fascinating. Science is now confirming what mystics have known for millennia. Fasting changes brain chemistry in ways that facilitate transcendent experience. Ketones increase GABA, reduce glutamate, balance neurotransmitters. Serotonin production shifts. Dopamine sensitivity increases. The default mode network, the part of your brain that maintains your sense of separate self, quiets down. This is the same pattern you see with psychedelics, meditation, breath work, all the technologies that dissolve the ego and expand consciousness. Fasting does it naturally, without substances, without techniques. You just stop eating and your brain recalibrates itself toward expanded awareness. And the pineal gland. We need to talk about the pineal gland, because this is the key. The pineal gland produces melatonin, regulates your sleep-wake cycle, and in its calcified state, doesn't do much else. But when activated, when decalcified through fasting, proper supplementation, and toxin avoidance, it becomes a consciousness antenna. Fluoride calcifies the pineal gland. It literally creates calcium deposits that block function. And guess what's in your water? Fluoride. Guess what's in your toothpaste? Fluoride. They told you it's for your teeth, but fluoride is a neurotoxin. It reduces IQ, it suppresses thyroid function, and it calcifies your pineal gland. Coincidence? That the one substance they add to everyone's drinking water happens to shut down the organ responsible for mystical experience? You decide. But when you fast, when you stop consuming fluoride, when you give your body time to detox and repair, the pineal gland decalcifies. And when it does, you start producing DMT naturally. Not huge amounts, not breakthrough doses, but enough. Enough to thin the veil. Enough to perceive beyond the physical. Enough to access information from non-local sources. This is why fasters report telepathy. This is why they report precognitive dreams. This is why they report communication with entities, ancestors, spirit guides, whatever you want to call non-physical intelligence. Because the pineal gland is literally a transceiver, and food keeps it turned off. Now let's get practical. Because I don't want this to just be theory. I want you to actually do this. I want you to experience it yourself. Because that's the only way you'll believe it. That's the only way you'll know I'm not exaggerating. So here's the protocol. The one they don't want you knowing. The one that's been systematically removed from public knowledge. Start with 24-hour fasts once per week. Nothing but water. No coffee, no tea, no artificial sweeteners. Nothing. Just water. Do this for a month. Let your body remember how to burn fat. Let your insulin sensitivity restore. Let autophagy reactivate. Then move to 48 hours once per month. Same rules. Water only. You'll notice the clarity on day 2. You'll notice the energy. You'll start understanding this isn't deprivation, this is activation. After 3 months of regular 48-hour fasts, try 72 hours, 3 full days. This is where ketones really spike. This is where the brain changes happen. This is where you'll start experiencing the heightened perception I'm talking about. And if you want to go deeper, if you want the full mystical experience, 5 to 7 days. But don't jump to this. Build up. Let your body adapt. And when you do it, set an intention. Fast with purpose. Ask a question. Seek guidance. Request a vision. Your consciousness will respond. During the fast, rest. Don't push yourself physically. Light movement is fine. Walking, gentle yoga, stretching. But this isn't the time for intense exercise. Save your energy for the internal work happening. Meditate. Sit in silence. Journal. Pay attention to your dreams. Notice synchronicities. Track what arises. Because information will come. Insights will surface. Solutions will appear. This is your consciousness cleaning house and reorganizing itself. And when you break the fast, do it gently. Start with broth, then soft foods, then gradually back to normal eating. Don't immediately binge on pizza. Your digestive system has been resting. Ease it back into function. But here's what's crucial. The benefits of fasting don't come from the fasting itself. They come from what fasting reveals. It shows you that hunger isn't an emergency, that you're stronger than you thought, that your body is intelligent, that consciousness is more than your physical form. And once you know that, once you've experienced it directly, everything changes. You stop being afraid. You stop being dependent. You stop trusting authorities who clearly have no idea what they're talking about. Because if they lied about fasting, what else did they lie about? If they suppressed this technology for decades while people suffered from preventable diseases, what else are they suppressing? Let me tell you what else. They're suppressing the fact that most chronic disease is reversible through fasting. Diabetes? Reversible. Autoimmune conditions? Massively improved. Cancer? Fasting selectively kills cancer cells while protecting healthy cells. Heart disease? Fasting reduces inflammation, improves lipid profiles, lowers blood pressure. There are studies on all of this, peer-reviewed, published studies. But they're not mainstream, they're not taught in medical schools. Because if people knew they could heal themselves through free intervention, that requires no drugs, no surgery, no medical system, the entire healthcare industry would collapse. And I'm not exaggerating. Healthcare is the largest industry in most developed countries, trillions of dollars, and it's built on managing chronic disease, not curing it. They need you sick. They need you dependent. They need you on medications for life. Fasting threatens all of that, because fasting works. It works better than drugs for most conditions. It works faster. It has no side effects when done properly, and it costs nothing. This is why they attack it. This is why they call it dangerous. This is why they've removed it from collective knowledge. Not because it doesn't work, because it works too well, but we're bringing it back because people are waking up. People are realizing they've been lied to. People are trying fasting, experiencing the benefits and spreading the word despite the censorship. And this is why I'm making this video. This is why I need you to share this. Because this information saves lives. This information transforms consciousness. This information liberates people from systems designed to keep them trapped. So if this resonated, if something clicked, if you're ready to try this, drop a comment right now. Tell me what's stopping you. Tell me what you're afraid of. Tell me what questions you have. I'm reading every comment. I'm answering everything. Let's build a community of people who refuse to stay dependent on broken systems. And subscribe, because this is just the beginning. We're going to go deeper. We're going to explore every technology they've hidden. Breathwork that alters consciousness. Sound frequencies that heal disease. Plant medicines that expand perception. Sacred geometry that influences reality. All of it. Every single tool they've labeled pseudoscience while privately using themselves. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're not sick because you're unlucky or because you have bad genes. You're sick because you've been systematically poisoned and then sold solutions that don't solve anything. But now you know. Fasting is technology. Hunger is activation. Your body is intelligent. And the supernatural abilities they told you don't exist? They exist. They're just dormant, waiting for you to stop feeding them into submission. So fast. Experience it yourself. And when you do, when you feel the clarity, the energy, the expanded perception, when you have the dream that predicts something before it happens, when you think of someone and they immediately text you, when you access information you couldn't possibly know through normal means, remember this moment. Remember that they told you it was impossible. Remember that they called it dangerous. Remember that they tried to keep this from you. And then ask yourself what else they're hiding. Because this is about more than fasting. This is about reclaiming your power, your sovereignty, your direct connection to consciousness. They want you dependent. We're choosing freedom. The protocol is simple. The science is clear. The experience is undeniable, and the implications are world-changing. Your hunger is not weakness. It's a doorway. And on the other side is everything they told you wasn't real. So, open it, step through, and remember who you actually are. You're not a biological machine that needs constant feeding. Your consciousness temporarily wearing a physical form, and that form is capable of things they've trained you to forget. Fast and remember. The universe is waiting. Now let me tell you what they really don't want you discovering, because the fasting is just the entry point. It's just the first layer. Once you start activating these dormant abilities, once you prove to yourself that everything they told you about your body was a lie, you start questioning everything else. And that's when it gets really dangerous for them. Because here's what happens after you've fasted a few times, after you've experienced the clarity, the visions, the synchronicities. You start noticing patterns. You start seeing how everything in modern life is specifically designed to keep you disconnected from this state. And it's not random, it's architectural, it's systematic, it's intentional. Let's talk about food timing. They tell you to eat first thing in the morning, break fast, literally breaking your fast. Why? Because you've been fasting all night while you sleep. 8 hours, maybe 10 hours without food. And what happens during sleep? Your growth hormone spikes, your body repairs, your brain detoxifies. You're in a mild ketogenic state, you're producing melatonin, processing DMT, downloading information from your subconscious. And then they tell you to immediately shut all of that down with breakfast. Spike your insulin, flood your system with glucose. Pull yourself out of that expanded state and back into dense physical consciousness, before you've even had time to remember your dreams, before you've integrated whatever your consciousness was processing while you slept. This isn't health advice. This is consciousness suppression. and it's so normalized you never questioned it. But watch what happens when you don't eat breakfast, when you extend that overnight fast to 16 hours, 18 hours, 20 hours. You stay in that elevated state longer. The clarity from sleep continues into your waking hours. The downloads keep coming. The intuition stays sharp. You're operating from a different level of consciousness, and you can feel it. And this terrifies them, because a population operating from expanded consciousness doesn't consume the same way, doesn't obey the same way, doesn't think the same way. You start seeing through the manipulation. You start questioning why you believed things you were told without evidence. You start trusting your own direct experience over external authority. This is why every control system throughout history has controlled food. It's not just about calories. It's not just about nutrition. It's about consciousness management. Stalin knew this. Mao knew this. Every dictator knew this. Control the food supply, control access to higher states, control the population. But we're not talking about communist regimes. We're talking about right now Western democracies, free societies, where the control is more subtle but just as effective. They don't restrict your food. They manipulate your relationship with it. They create psychological dependence. They make you afraid of hunger, and the fear is the key. Because fear keeps you eating. Fear of low blood sugar, fear of muscle loss, fear of slowing your metabolism, fear of triggering eating disorders. All of it designed to keep you constantly consuming, constantly in glucose-burning mode, constantly disconnected from the ketogenic states that activate supernatural perception. Let me break down what's actually happening biologically, because this is where it gets fascinating. Your mitochondria, the power plants in your cells, can run on two fuel sources, glucose or ketones, but they're not equal. They don't produce the same results. Glucose metabolism creates reactive oxygen species. Free radicals, cellular damage. It's dirty fuel. It works, but it's inflammatory. It ages you faster, and it produces energy in a way that keeps your consciousness locked in narrow bandwidth perception. Ketone metabolism is clean. It produces more ATP per molecule. It generates fewer free radicals. It activates longevity pathways. And here's the key. It produces energy in a way that allows your neurons to fire in different patterns. Patterns associated with gamma brain waves, patterns associated with flow states, patterns associated with mystical experience. This isn't woo. This is measurable neuroscience. EEG studies show that people in deep ketosis produce more gamma waves, 40 Hz and above, the same frequency range associated with meditation masters, the same frequency range associated with moments of insight, creativity, transcendent experience. Your brain is literally vibrating at a different frequency when you fast. And that frequency gives you access to information that's always there, but normally filtered out by your glucose-dependent default consciousness. Think about dreams. You fast all night. You enter mild ketosis, and what happens? You access information your waking mind doesn't have. You process emotions. You problem solve. You sometimes perceive future events before they happen, and then you wake up, eat breakfast, and forget most of it. But what if you didn't eat? What if you stayed in that state? You'd maintain access to that expanded perception. The dream consciousness would bleed into waking reality. And suddenly you're operating with abilities that seem supernatural, but are actually just natural human capacity that's been suppressed by constant eating. Let me give you an example. After day 5 of a 7-day fast, I had an experience I still can't fully explain. I was meditating, nothing special, just sitting in silence. And suddenly I wasn't in my body. I was above it, looking down, completely aware, completely conscious but not physically present in my form. And in that state, I had access to information I shouldn't have had. Details about people I'd never met, knowledge about situations I wasn't involved in, all of it later confirmed as accurate. This wasn't imagination. This wasn't wishful thinking. This was direct perception outside the normal limitations of physical consciousness. Now, you might say that's just one person's experience. That's anecdotal. That's not proof. And you'd be right. Except it's not just me. This is documented throughout history: shamanic journeying, astral projection, remote viewing, out-of-body experiences, all of it facilitated by fasting, all of it dismissed by mainstream science as impossible despite thousands of consistent reports across cultures and time periods. Why is it dismissed? Because if it's real, if consciousness can exist and perceive beyond the physical body, then materialism is wrong. And if materialism is wrong, then the entire foundation of modern science, modern medicine, modern society collapses. They've built everything on the assumption that consciousness is produced by the brain, that you are your body, that when your body dies, you cease to exist. But fasting proves otherwise. Because when you remove food, when you quiet the body's demands, consciousness expands beyond physical limitations, and you experience directly that you are not your body. You are consciousness inhabiting a body, and that changes everything. Because if you're not your body, then death isn't the end. If consciousness exists independently, then you're immortal. And if you're immortal, then fear loses its power. And if fear loses its power, then control systems lose their power, because all control is based on fear: fear of death, fear of suffering, fear of loss. This is why they suppress fasting. Not because it's physically dangerous, because it's philosophically dangerous. It threatens the entire worldview that keeps people compliant, obedient, controllable. Now let's talk about the CIA, because yes, the CIA was involved in researching these abilities. It's not conspiracy. It's documented. Project Stargate, remote viewing, psychic espionage. They spent decades and millions of dollars training operatives to perceive information at a distance, to access locations they'd never been, to spy on enemies using nothing but consciousness. And it worked. The program ran for over 20 years. They successfully gathered intelligence that was later verified. They located hostages. They found hidden facilities. They predicted events before they happened, all using trained remote viewers who accessed expanded states of consciousness. And guess what was part of the protocol? Fasting, sensory deprivation, meditation. All the technologies that quiet the physical body and amplify non-physical perception, because they knew. The military knew. The intelligence agencies knew. These abilities are real, they're trainable, and they're accessible through practices that remove normal consciousness constraints. But they didn't tell you. They kept it classified. They published debunking reports. They let mainstream science mock it as pseudoscience, all while continuing to use it operationally, because they wanted the advantage. They wanted you thinking it's impossible while they used it against you, and fasting was central to it, not because fasting itself is psychic, but because fasting removes the interference. It quiets the noise. It strips away the layers of physical consciousness that normally dominate awareness, and what's left is pure perception, direct knowing, access to information through non-local consciousness. This is your birthright. This is human potential, and they've hidden it behind fear, misinformation, and normalized eating patterns designed to keep you locked out of your own capabilities. So what do you do with this information? How do you actually access these abilities? Because knowing about it isn't enough. You have to practice, you have to train, you have to systematically remove the blocks. Here's the advanced protocol, the one that goes beyond physical benefits into consciousness expansion. And yes, this is intense. Yes, this requires commitment. But if you want the supernatural abilities I'm talking about, this is how you get them. Phase 1. Metabolic flexibility. 3 months of intermittent fasting, 16 to 18 hours daily. This teaches your body to switch between fuel sources easily. No more dependence on constant glucose. Your cells remember how to burn fat. Your brain adapts to using ketones. Foundation work. Phase 2. Extended fasting practice. Monthly 72-hour water fasts. This deepens ketosis. This activates autophagy at cellular levels. This starts the pineal decalcification process. You're training your body to function in expanded states for longer periods. Phase 3. Vision quest fasting. Quarterly 5 to 7 day fasts with intention. This is where consciousness work happens. You're not just fasting for health, you're fasting for insight, for activation, for direct spiritual experience. During Phase 3, you add practices. Meditation twice daily, minimum 30 minutes. You're not trying to achieve anything. You're just sitting in the expanded state that fasting creates and observing what arises. Dream journaling every morning, before you move, before you think. Write down everything you remember, because fasted dreams are prophetic. They contain information. They're communications from your higher consciousness. Track them, notice patterns, test predictions, sensory deprivation. If you can access a float tank, do it while fasting. The combination is exponential. You're removing external stimulus, you're removing internal stimulus from food. What's left is pure consciousness, and in that space, abilities activate that you didn't know you had. Sangazing. Early morning, first hour after sunrise, or last hour before sunset. Your pineal gland responds to light frequency. Sunlight contains information. When you're fasting, when your pineal is active, you can absorb that information directly. This was practiced in ancient Egypt, ancient India, ancient civilizations that understood solar consciousness. Breath work, Wim Hof method, holotropic breathing, pranayama. Breath controls consciousness. When you combine powerful breathing with fasting, you can induce non-ordinary states at will. You don't need substances. You don't need ceremonies. You have direct access, and here's what happens when you do this consistently. After 3 months of this protocol, abilities start manifesting that you can't explain through normal means. Telepathy becomes regular. You think of someone, they contact you. Not sometimes. Yeah, regularly. Pattern recognition that defies statistical probability. Precognition develops. You know things before they happen. Not vague feelings, specific details, events, conversations, and then they occur exactly as you perceived them. This isn't fortune-telling. This is time becoming non-linear in your direct experience. Energy sensitivity heightens. You feel people's emotions before they express them. You sense illness in bodies. You perceive intentions beneath words. You're reading the field, the electromagnetic information that's always present but normally below conscious threshold. Manifestation accelerates. What you focus on appears in physical reality faster, not because you're getting lucky, because you're collapsing probability waves through focused intention from an elevated consciousness state. This is practical application of quantum mechanics through biological fasting technology. And healing. Oh man, the healing. Both for yourself and others. You place your hands on someone and feel energy moving. They report pain decreasing, inflammation reducing, symptoms improving. This isn't Reiki training. This isn't attunement. This is your natural bioelectric field becoming coherent and powerful enough to affect other fields. All of this from fasting. From the simple act of not eating for extended periods, from allowing your body to remember what it was designed to do, from removing the interference that's been suppressing your abilities your entire life. Now they're going to tell you this is dangerous. They're going to tell you I'm irresponsible for sharing this. They're going to say people could hurt themselves. And you know what? They're terrified because they've lost control of the narrative. They can't suppress this information anymore. Too many people have tried it. Too many people have experienced the benefits. Too many people are waking up to their own power. And that's the point. This isn't about me. This isn't about any guru or teacher or system. This is about you discovering your own direct experience, testing these protocols yourself, proving to yourself that everything I'm saying is verifiable through practice. You don't have to believe me. In fact, don't believe me. Try it. Fast for 72 hours and see what happens. Pay attention to your dreams. Notice your mental clarity. Feel your intuition strengthen, and then decide for yourself whether I'm telling the truth, because the truth doesn't need belief. The truth reveals itself through experience, and this truth has been hidden from you deliberately, systematically, effectively, but not anymore. We're taking back these technologies. We're remembering who we are. We're accessing abilities that are our birthright as conscious beings in physical form. And no amount of suppression, no amount of ridicule, no amount of fear-mongering is going to stop this awakening. You are more powerful than they told you. Your body is more intelligent than they taught you. Your consciousness is more expansive than they allowed you to believe. And fasting is the key that unlocks all of it. Let me tell you about the one thing that makes all of this even more powerful. The thing they've kept hidden in plain sight. The reason ancient traditions combined fasting with specific practices that modern science is only now beginning to understand. Because fasting alone is powerful, but fasting combined with circadian alignment? That's when you unlock abilities that seem like magic. Your body operates on rhythms, not just daily rhythms, lunar rhythms, solar rhythms, seasonal rhythms, and every one of these rhythms affects your consciousness, your hormone production, your cellular function, and your access to expanded states. The ancients knew this. That's why they fasted during specific moon phases. That's why they timed their vision quests to solstices and equinoxes. That's why Ramadan follows the lunar calendar. This isn't superstition. This is biology. Your pineal gland responds to lunar cycles. Studies show melatonin production changes with moon phases. Your sleep patterns shift. Your dream intensity varies. And when you fast during the new moon or full moon, when your pineal is already in a heightened state, the effects multiply exponentially. I've tested this extensively. A 72-hour fast during a regular week produces significant benefits: mental clarity, elevated energy, mild intuitive enhancement. But that same fast during a new moon, the experiences are completely different. The dreams become prophetic with frightening accuracy. The synchronicities become impossible to dismiss as coincidence. The sense of connection to something larger becomes undeniable. And it's not just me. Every tradition that maintained these practices reports the same thing. Native American vision quests timed to specific celestial events, Buddhist monks fasting during particular lunar phases, Islamic Ramadan following the moon, Hindu Ekadashi fasting on the 11th day of each lunar fortnight. This is global. This is consistent. This is technology that works, but they stripped this from you. They gave you a solar calendar disconnected from natural rhythms. They put you in artificial light that disrupts your circadian biology. They scheduled your life around arbitrary time constructs that have nothing to do with your body's natural cycles. And then they told you lunar influences are pseudoscience while privately, agricultural industries still plant by moon phases because it measurably affects growth. So here's what you need to understand. When you fast in alignment with lunar cycles, you're not just removing food. You're synchronizing with cosmic rhythms that your body is designed to respond to. Your cells know these patterns. Your DNA remembers them. And when you honor them, when you work with them instead of against them, your biology rewards you with access to states that are otherwise difficult to reach. Start your extended fasts on the new moon. This is when darkness is greatest, when your pineal gland is producing maximum melatonin, when your consciousness is naturally more inward focused. The new moon fast is for receiving information, for downloading insight, for accessing the void where all potential exists, or fast during the full moon, when light is maximum, when energy is high, when your system is primed for release and purification. The full moon fast is for letting go, for clearing what no longer serves, for amplifying your energy field and projecting intention outward. Track your experiences. You'll notice the difference immediately. The new moon fasts feel introspective, mystical, visionary. The full moon fasts feel energizing, clarifying, transformative. Different tools for different purposes, both exponentially more powerful than random timing. And let's talk about what happens to your electromagnetic field during extended fasting, because this is where the real supernatural abilities emerge. Your heart, your brain, your entire nervous system generates measurable electromagnetic fields. These fields extend beyond your physical body. They interact with other fields. They receive information. They transmit information. But in normal fed states, these fields are chaotic, disrupted by digestive processes, weakened by inflammation, scattered by constant sensory input from food cravings and blood sugar fluctuations. Your field is there, but it's noisy, it's incoherent, it's weak. Fasting changes everything. As digestion stops, as inflammation decreases, as your system enters repair mode, your electromagnetic field strengthens and becomes coherent. It stops being scattered and starts becoming focused, powerful, organized. HeartMath Institute has measured this. Fasted individuals show increased heart rate variability, greater coherence between heart and brain rhythms, stronger, more organized electromagnetic output. And this coherent field is what allows for abilities that seem impossible. Telepathy? That's field-to-field communication. When your field is strong and coherent, when someone else's field is receptive, information transfers directly. No words needed, no physical proximity required, just two electromagnetic fields exchanging data. Remote viewing? That's your field extending beyond normal spatial limitations. Consciousness isn't confined to your skull. It's a field phenomenon. And when that field is amplified through fasting, it can perceive distant locations, gather information across space, and bring that data back to your conscious awareness. Healing others? That's field coherence inducing coherence in another person's disrupted field. Your organized electromagnetic pattern influences their chaotic pattern. Their body recognizes the more coherent signal and begins reorganizing to match it. This is measurable, this is replicable, this is real. And manifestation, that's your coherent, field collapsing quantum probabilities in your favor. The observer effect isn't just about observation, it's about coherence. Weak, scattered fields have minimal influence on quantum systems, but strong, focused, coherent fields, they collapse probabilities significantly. What you focus on with a fasted, coherent bioelectric field manifests faster because you're literally stronger at the quantum level. This is why mystics fast before attempting anything significant. Why shamans prepare with dietary restriction before ceremony. Why prophets withdraw into wilderness without food before revelation. They're not just mentally preparing, they're physically optimizing their electromagnetic field for maximum consciousness capability. Now let me address the fear that's probably arising. Because as you read this, as you start believing this might be real, part of you is getting scared. And that's intentional programming. They've built fear responses around these topics specifically to keep you from investigating them. You're afraid of losing control, afraid of experiencing something you can't explain, afraid of discovering that reality isn't what you've been told. And underneath all of that, you're afraid of your own power. Because if you have these abilities, if you can affect reality through consciousness, then you're responsible. You can't blame circumstances anymore. You can't claim victimhood. You're a creator. And that's terrifying. But here's what you need to hear. This power isn't new. You've always had it. You've been using it unconsciously your entire life. Every thought, every emotion, every belief has been shaping your reality. You just weren't aware of it. Fasting doesn't give you abilities you didn't have. It makes you conscious of abilities you've been using blindly. And yes, that's a big responsibility. But it's also liberation. Because once you know you're creating your experience, you can create it deliberately. You can stop attracting what you don't want. You can start manifesting what you do want. You become the conscious author of your life, instead of the unconscious victim of circumstances. This is what they fear. Not that you'll gain power, that you'll realize you always had it. Because a population that knows its power is ungovernable, can't be manipulated, can't be controlled, become sovereign. And sovereignty is the end of their systems, so they keep you afraid. They keep you eating. They keep you distracted. They keep you believing you're powerless. And it works until someone shows you the door, until someone tells you the truth, until someone gives you the practical protocol to prove it to yourself. I'm giving you that protocol. I'm showing you the door, but you have to walk through it. You have to take the leap. You have to trust your direct experience over their authority. And when you do, when you fast with intention, when you align with natural rhythms, when you practice the consciousness technologies I've shared, you'll discover something profound. You'll discover that you're not who they told you you were. You're not a biological machine that needs constant maintenance. You're not a consumer that exists to buy products. You're not a powerless individual at the mercy of external forces. You're a conscious creator with electromagnetic field capabilities that can influence quantum reality. You're a multidimensional being temporarily focused in physical form. You're an immortal consciousness using a body as a vehicle for experience. And that body, when used correctly, when fasted appropriately, when aligned with natural cycles, becomes a technology for consciousness expansion that rivals anything modern science has developed. This is your inheritance. This is your nature. This is what you've been seeking through every diet, every supplement, every biohack, every spiritual practice. You've been looking for the thing that finally makes you feel alive, awake, powerful, connected. And it was always here, inside you, waiting for you to stop eating long enough to remember. The hunger you've been taught to fear is actually the hunger of your soul for expansion. Your body doesn't need constant feeding. Your consciousness needs constant growth. And fasting feeds your consciousness while quieting your body. It inverts the normal priority. It puts spirit first and matter second. And in that inversion, everything becomes possible. So stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for more evidence. Stop waiting for the perfect time. The perfect time is now. The evidence is your direct experience, and you don't need permission to stop eating. That's the beauty of this. It's free. It's accessible. It's entirely within your control. They can't stop you from fasting. They can discourage you. They can spread fear. They can mock you. But they can't prevent you from simply not eating for a few days. And once you do it, once you experience it, you'll understand why they tried so hard to keep you from it. Because on the other side of that 72-hour threshold, on day 4 and 5, when the ketones are flooding your brain, when your field is coherent, when your perception is expanded, you'll see clearly. You'll see the manipulation, you'll see the control systems, you'll see your own power, and you'll never be the same. That's the real danger of fasting. Not to your body, to their control, and that's exactly why you need to do it. So here's what I want you to do, right now. Before you click away, before you dismiss this, before you go back to normal life, I want you to commit. Commit to one 72-hour water fast in the next 30 days. Set a date. Mark it on your calendar. Prepare for it mentally. And when you do it, pay attention. Notice everything. Track your experience. Journal your insights. Test your intuition. And then come back and tell me what happened. Drop a comment with your commitment. Tell me when you're doing it. Tell me what you're hoping to discover. Because when you put it in writing, when you declare it publicly, you're more likely to follow through. And I want you to follow through. I want you to experience this, because your life will never be the same. And subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on notifications, because we're going deeper. Next video, we're talking about breathwork protocols that induce DMT release naturally. After that, sound frequencies that heal at the cellular level. Then plant medicine integration without the plants. And then the big one, how to biohack your pineal gland for permanent third eye activation. This is a series. This is a journey, and you're at the beginning. The rabbit hole goes so much deeper than fasting. But fasting is the foundation. It's the first step. It's the practice that proves to you that your body is a technology you've never been taught to use. So commit, fast, experience, report back, and let's build a community of people who've broken free from the programming. People who know their power. People who've accessed their abilities. People who refuse to accept limitations that were imposed from outside. The supernatural isn't supernatural. It's natural abilities that have been suppressed, and now you know how to access them. Now you have the protocol. Now you have no excuse. Your hunger is a doorway. Your body is a technology. Your consciousness is limitless, and they lied to you about all of it. Stop eating, start remembering, and watch reality bend to meet you. The universe is listening. Your cells are waiting. Your abilities are dormant, not dead. Activate them now.